Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 126th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. In the last 2 weeks, we have been Christmas themed, and this week, it is going to be comfort and joy because we are in the week of Christmas. This is actually Christmas Eve, as some of you may know it or call it. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, this is going to be Christmas themed again, but that is all the Christmas it's going to be is the title. What it's going to be about today is traveling comfortably and how that's going to increase your overall happiness on the trip. So I'm going to give you some of my top tier tips for ensuring you're positioning yourself to maximize your enjoyment on your adventures. Sometimes I forget to take my own awesome advice, and I feel the repercussions of that. And so what I'm going to try to do is give you some of my advice this week. Some of these lessons I've learned the hard way. Some of them I was really smart and intentional and was able to not have to learn them the hard way. And then other lessons are things that I've picked up from my guests. I learn things from my clients every day. And when they give me feedback and when they give me some of their tips, I try to incorporate that in my own travel and for my future clients' travel. So I have 8 tips, and there's so many more I could share with you, but that's going to be about all the time we'll have for today. So let's get started. The number one thing I'm going to talk to you today about having comfort in travel is shoes matter. Shoes matter. That's really, if you get nothing else from what I say today, it's going to be shoes matter. If you get new shoes for a trip, and this is so common because you think, oh, I'm going somewhere, I need, some waterproof, sandals, or I need some new tennis shoes. I'm about to go to Disney or Universal and I'm going to be walking a lot. I need some comfortable tennis shoes. Break them in. I know it's obvious, right? It makes sense. These are things that you know, but I can't tell you how many times I've run out of time before a trip and I'm like, oh, we need a new pair of shoes. The boys, especially. I have not done them justice sometimes because I'll realize, oh, they've outgrown these type of shoes since our last trip. They need another pair in a bigger size, and I have not given them time to break them in. So we know to break in our shoes before a big trip, but sometimes we forget with our kids because they're changing shoe sizes a lot more frequently than we are. So I took my own advice, and before our big trip to Universal a few weeks ago, we went and got new shoes the week before. I had that scheduled that we were going to do. So we had plenty of time to break them in. Size up on if you're going to get shoes specifically for a trip and you're like, okay, well, this is the size I normally wear. Maybe you want to think about going a half size up. And this is why. If you travel by air, if you're going to higher elevations, if you're going somewhere where it's hot, if you're going to be walking a lot, if your feet are prone to swelling. And this is more for adults than kids, I think, because I did not have this issue when I was younger. I don't remember my feet swelling up like they do now that I'm 41. But that makes a difference for me now. My feet, if I'm flying, I feel it. I can tell. And when my mother traveled with me this summer and we went to the heat in Curacao, she could tell. So what fits you comfortably at home may not fit you comfortably in the Caribbean. So make sure when you travel, you don't travel with your tight shoes. Your ones that give you a little more breathing room, that's what you want to take. So size up. Make sure you have waterproof options. I'm going to tell you a story of Logan and soggy shoes, and it's going to be quick. One year we were at Disney, and I was so excited because I scored us breakfast at the Beast Castle. So be our guest. But as Florida often does, it came a monsoon out of nowhere and it was going to be all morning. And Logan looked outside and he's like, no, I don't want to go. Well, that was back in the days when you booked your dining 180 days in advance. So I'm like, no, sir. I've had this booked for 6 months. Put on your shoes and we're going. The problem is he was wearing things that were not rainproof. And he stepped in water up to his knee in his jeans. His shoes were soaked. And when your feet are wet or soggy, it is really hard to lift your spirits. So I don't think I ever got him out of that mood that day, even though we were eating breakfast in the Beast Castle, because his feet were soggy. So if you hear nothing else, make sure that you have great options for your shoes. Take care of your feet, especially if you're going to be walking on them a lot. Have waterproof options. Do not just travel with one pair of shoes ever. Make sure that you have 2 or 3 options. One of them being waterproof, something that will dry quickly. Another quick story I'm going to share with you is when I was in New York for the very first time. I thought I was going to travel lightly because I have learned to travel in only a carry-on. But where I shouldn't have sacrificed is I brought 2 pair of shoes. Actually, 3 pair of shoes. One were heels, so those don't count. But I had 2 comfortable walking shoes. The problem was they were they were cute. They were easy to walk in. But I got one in brown and one in black because I loved them. They'll be great. Here's the problem. They were the exact same type of shoe, which meant they rubbed my feet in the exact same way. My feet never got a break. It rubbed the heel the same way, the top of my feet the same way. So even though they were different shoes as far as color, they were the same as far as where they were hitting my feet. So you want to have variety in your shoes. So now I would say 3 or 4 pair of shoes, just so you have some variety in comfort and walkability. I always bring a pair of tennis shoes with me, even if I don't wear them. Even when I go to the Caribbean, I take them with me. So then if I decide on the off chance to go to the gym, I have my tennis shoes. I can't have the excuse of, I didn't go to the gym because I didn't have the right shoes. I always bring them with me. Okay, the others I'm going to fly through. But again, take care of your feet. That's most important for comfort in traveling. Number 2, I choose main cabin or Comfort Plus on my flights. I will no longer fly basic, even if it saves me $100 a ticket. It's not worth it for me. I want a little bit more space. I want to board earlier. I want to be able to have my carry-on with me and not have to check it at the gate. So there are several reasons that I am going to go main cabin or even Comfort Plus. So I don't have to be first class or business, but if that is you, then that's something to budget for. If that's something really important for you, the class of your air carrier that you're flying, that can matter. Speaking of other things that matter, number 3 for me, where you stay matters. Location and bed comfort for me are super important. I don't want to have to drive 30 minutes to an hour to get to everywhere I want to go if I'm staying in the same area. Now, if I'm doing a road trip where I know I'm traveling other places and I want to be in a centralized location, but if I'm in the city and there's a lot of places concentrated where I want to be, then I want to be right in the heart of where I can walk. I love being able to walk places. So location for me really matters. Bed comfort is something I'm not sacrificing on. I read reviews for those things, and if someone says the beds are hard and I know that and that's exactly where I'm going to stay and there's no other exceptions, then I'm going to request that they have a mattress pad on top of the bed. If the bed is hard, I cannot sleep. So where you stay definitely matters. Number 4, pack snacks to avoid getting hangry. This will help you avoid mutinies with your spouse and your kids, especially. I'm saying this from personal experience. If you have a long travel day and you're flying, you cannot rely on the airplane to feed you. Your airline is not going to feed you. You may get pretzels and drinks, and that's it. So get food, whether it's in the airport before you get on the plane and take it with you, eat before, but actually have snacks too. Those pretzels are not going to last you 4 hours. Pace yourself is number 5. Now, this is me preaching to the choir for myself because I do not like to pace myself, but you need to plan for some downtime. Even if it's somewhere you've never been before, give yourself some breathing room, especially if you are honeymooning or traveling with kids and or a multi-generational trip. Like if the grandparents are going with you, you need to make sure that you have planned some downtime for everybody. But you don't want people to drag by midway of your trip or they're not going to really enjoy it. So this is for all types of trips. Cruises, Disney, Universal, Europe for me is my struggle because when I'm there, I want to go 90 to nothing from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. And this has led to some issues with my husband and I, especially in our earlier years when we were traveling. There was one time we were in Barcelona, I'll never forget. He was really hungry And there are more things I wanted to check off my list before we went to eat. And he just sat down in the middle of a park on the sidewalk and refused to get up again unless it was towards where we were going to eat. So don't do that to your family. If you're the one that pushes everyone, make sure that you're allowing everyone time to enjoy it and to rest some too. Number 6, if you're renting a car, make sure to plan for everyone's luggage. It may be less expensive to go for the smaller vehicle, but you might not be able to fit everyone plus the luggage in it. So just keep that in mind when renting a car. Is it going to be comfortable for driving in with luggage? And number 7, speaking of luggage, do not overpack. Save room for some souvenirs if you're a souvenir buyer, but you don't want to overpack because that means as much as you carry, you're bringing back more usually. It's going to be heavier. It's going to be more cumbersome. You're going to have to store it at different times. Maybe if your room's not ready yet and you want to get out and explore and you just don't want to pack up your whole house for going for a weekend or going for a week. So I've always heard when packing, lay out everything you want to take, half the amount of clothes, double the amount of money, and you're ready to go. But don't skimp on the shoes. Okay, and number 8. In order to have comfort and joy while you're traveling, don't forget the essentials like sunblock, chapstick. We went to Aruba one summer and I absolutely loved it, but I didn't bring any, chapstick or anything for my lips. And the wind there was so strong, 30 to 40 mile per hour trade winds, that it took a layer of skin right off my lips. And so by the end of the week, I could not even enjoy what I was eating. Basic medications. Yes, a lot of these you can get while you're traveling, especially if you're traveling, within the U.S., places that you've gone before. But when we're going internationally and we don't want to have to figure out what kind of medicines we're getting, what the dosage will be, is this going to be in English or not in English? We bring our basic medications with us, just for, especially when traveling with kids. So for fever, anything for headaches, stomach related, like having some Pepto, those kind of things when traveling makes so much sense to have with you. So then you're not having to go search. So to be comfortable and have the most fun while you're traveling, you've got to remember those essentials. And that's something that Logan is really good at. I make sure that I have sunblock because I burn very easily. And now I make sure that I have chapstick, but he makes sure that we have, being our resident nurse in the family, he's going to make sure that we have our basic medications. And I'm very thankful for him. That's all the time we have for this week. Merry Christmas, and I hope you and your family have a lot of comfort and joy this week. If you have not joined our Facebook group, please do so, Heather and Logan Tate Whimsical Destinations. But from my family to yours, Merry Christmas.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcast, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.